Okay, picture this for a second. A solitary explorer, hurtling through the pitch-black void of deep space, literally 1.7 billion miles away from home. The destination? A world of chaotic, swirling violence and deadly, invisible forces. In this explainer, we're going to track the incredible journey of that intrepid explorer, NASA's Juno spacecraft. We're not just looking at a hunk of metal here. We're following an armored emissary sent out to brave the most extreme conditions you can possibly imagine, all to unveil the chaotic depths of Jupiter's atmosphere.
So let's dive into this. Why send a probe into such crazy danger? Well, you have to look at what Jupiter actually represents. As principal investigator Scott Bolton perfectly put it, Jupiter is the Rosetta Stone of our solar system. Because it's so massive, it basically held on to its original composition from the very dawn of our solar system. It's like a giant swirling time capsule. But the problem is, the clues to our origins, like how the planets actually formed and how Earth came to be, are all locked away, hidden deep beneath this incredibly dense, forbidding cloud cover.
Actually, the name Juno is absolutely no accident. You know your Roman mythology, right? Jupiter was the king of the gods, the god of the sky and storms. And whenever he misbehaved, he'd draw this thick veil of clouds around himself to hide what he was doing from the rest of the universe. But his wife, the goddess Juno, she was the only one who could peer through that impenetrable fog and see exactly what he was hiding. And that is exactly what our mechanical explorer is doing. For centuries, we could only look at the painted surface of those clouds. But now, our armored emissary is plunging right through that atmospheric haze to steal the storm god's greatest planetary secrets.
But here's the catch. Snatching those secrets comes at an incredibly high price. Jupiter is hostile. Surrounding the whole planet is this massive, monstrous magnetic field. We're talking at least 15 times stronger than Earth's magnetic field. And in some spots, it actually spikes to over 50 times more intense. This field sweeps up charged particles and accelerates them to near light speed. It creates a deadly, punishing radiation environment that acts like an invisible force field just waiting to instantly fry the delicate electronics of any spacecraft daring enough to approach.
So how on Earth, or rather how on Jupiter, does an explorer survive that? Well, it brings a shield. To withstand this merciless bombardment, Juno was equipped with something never before used in space exploration. Built right into the center of the spacecraft is a 400-pound armored titanium vault, roughly the size of an SUV's trunk. This heavy-duty, impenetrable lockbox protects the explorer's heart, its central computer, and the most sensitive scientific instruments. Literally, without this armor, the mission would have been over before it even started. But even with all that armor, you absolutely cannot linger in those radiation belts. You gotta move fast. Juno's survival depends on these daring, high-speed, 2-hour looping orbits. The trajectory is just a masterclass in threading a cosmic needle. Juno approaches screaming down over the North Pole, takes a heroin plunge that drops it a mere 2,200 miles above the swirling cloud tops, skimming just underneath the worst of the radiation. It collects a fire hose of data in a massive rush and then just rapidly escapes via the South Pole, zooming millions of miles away to safety before gravity yanks it back in for another screaming pass. And this brilliantly illustrates how it actually looks through that veil during those insanely fast flybys. Juno relies on an instrument called the microwave radiometer, or MWR. See, regular cameras just capture the top layer of the clouds. But microwaves? They pass right through that dense upper atmosphere. The MWR acts as Juno's specialized X-ray-like eyes, piercing deep beneath the storm clouds to measure the thermal radiation coming from the inside. Specifically, it's hunting for the hidden abundance of water and ammonia lying in the pitch-black abyss down below.
And wow, did the mysteries this single instrument solved completely revolutionized our understanding of the gas giant. For decades, scientists wondered if those beautiful striped belts and zones we see on Jupiter were just surface weather. Well, the MWR revealed those jet streams actually plunge an astonishing 1,900 miles straight down into the planet. Plus, it finally solved the mystery of Jupiter's missing water, finding a surprising abundance of it gathered near the equator. And at the poles, Juno discovered bizarre, softball-sized ammonia hailstones, basically acting like this cosmic slushy precipitation falling deep in the atmosphere.
Now, what's really interesting about this next part is how Juno forced us to rethink the single most famous feature in our entire solar system, the Great Red Spot. We've been looking at this storm through telescopes for centuries, right? But we always suffered from a surface illusion. We kind of thought of it as a flat, swirling stecker slapped onto the side of a sphere. Juno's 3D mapping completely shattered that illusion. It is not flat. It's a violent, three-dimensional tempest, and its roots plunge aggressively downward into the planet. To put that into perspective and truly grasp the terrifying magnitude of this,
Just look at the scale. The roots of the Great Red Spot run 200 miles deep. That is 50 to 100 times deeper than the deepest, darkest trenches of Earth's oceans. Just imagine a hurricane, so incomprehensibly massive that it doesn't just skim the surface, but carves a churning vortex hundreds of miles into the crushing, pressurized darkness of the planet's interior. No way around it. That is the true face of the storm god.
But the most shocking visual revelations were actually waiting at the extreme ends of the world. Which brings us to Section 2, the polar maelstroms, unveiling Jupiter's extremes. Up until Juno, no spacecraft had ever flown directly over Jupiter's poles. They were completely dark, uncharted territories. While at the North Pole, the clouds parted to reveal this bizarre, almost unnatural geometry. Juno discovered exactly 8 massive cyclones perfectly clustered in an octagonal pattern around a single central vortex. And these aren't your typical Earth hurricanes. Each and every one of these 8 outer cyclones is roughly the size of the Earth itself. It's a jaw-dropping geometric pattern of pure, unadulterated meteorological violence. So the crucial point here is the mind-bending physics at play. These storms are 2,500 miles wide. Their spiral arms are physically touching. They're violently smacking together, grinding against one another as they spin. And yet, defying everything we thought we knew about fluid dynamics, they stubbornly refuse to merge into one giant megastorm. They're locked in this eternal, violent, unmerging dance, keeping their distinct individual structures despite all the sheer chaos around them. And just when you think you've got the pattern nailed down, Jupiter throws a curveball. If you contrast the North and South poles, you see something super fascinating. The North Pole seems firmly locked in its pattern of 8 cyclones circling one. But the South Pole? That is dynamic chaos. Originally, Juno mapped a pentagon there, 5 cyclones circling one central vortex, seemed locked in place. But during a later flyby, Juno literally watched the atmosphere actively shift. A new, giant cyclone violently muscled its way into the arrangement, changing the pattern from 5 to 6. We are watching the weather systems of a gas giant evolve right before our explorers' eyes. Let's move on and see how this builds, because against all odds, our armored explorer not only survived its primary mission in this insanely hostile environment, it absolutely thrived. And its voyage is unfinished. The mission got extended to September 2025. Juno's orbit has evolved, letting it perform these incredibly daring, close flybys of Jupiter's Galilean moons, Ganymede, Europa, and the volcanic hellscape that is Io. It's also tracking bizarre magnetic anomalies on the equator, like the drifting, invisible Great Blue Spot. Juno is exploring the whole Jovian system now.
So, what does this all mean? We sent this machine out to interpret a planetary Rosetta Stone, and it proved that underneath the clouds, gas giants are infinitely more complex, dynamic, and mysterious than we ever dared to imagine. It leaves us with a pretty profound question. If the storm god's secrets explain the chaotic history of our own solar system's past, what do they tell us about the countless giant planets waiting for us out there in the alien star systems of the galaxy? I'll leave you to ponder that as we close out this explainer. Thanks so much for joining me on this incredible journey.